staying on the issue of race, or going back to that, the Black Lives Matter movement, Joanna, in the United States, this very quickly became the defining woke cause, and it's ugly. I mean, sure, we'll make the required caveats. None of us want to see lives lost because of heavy-handed policing. The death of George Floyd was unforgivable, etc., etc. But the Black Lives Movement is much more than that. It's a radical movement imbued with critical race theory. It's opposed to capitalism. It's opposed to the nuclear family and a whole lot of other things which decent Americans would rightly object to. Nonetheless, it's become enormously powerful. The taking of the knee quickly took over the English soccer establishment, and the fans don't like it. We've got a clip of that. There's the England team taking the knee, and the crowd seemed to be unified in opposition, booing it. Woke critics, of course, will say that's proof that all English soccer fans are ignorant at best and racist white supremacists at worst. Are they?
No, absolutely not. And I guess scenes like that actually make me feel quite positive, because they show me that woke won't win ultimately, because I think that the problem with woke is that it's a very elite preoccupation, and as soon as it comes in contact with the masses, if you like, for want of a better word, whether that's through the ballot box or even on the football pitch, people show that they don't like it. People react in that negative way, and ultimately that does bring about change. It's been announced just in the past couple of days that Premiership footballers, I can't remember how it's been put, it's certainly not been put that this has been dropped all the time, but we've been told that this practice of taking the knee will be used, I think it's kind of more selectively, or will be more open to individual teams and players deciding whether they want to do it or not, which obviously raises a number of other problems, but it does just show that they can't sustain these woke practices when people themselves show how much they object to them.
You know, the interesting part about this, I think something that's rarely noticed, there are, of course, people who make good money out of wokeism, and they've got a financial incentive in keeping it going. One example from here, just staying on sport, there's no reason at all why you would have heard of the Manly Sea Eagles in England. They're a rugby league team based on the northern beaches of Sydney. Now, last week there was a notorious incident, you may have seen it publicised even in Britain, where the idea came up that they'd all wear pride jerseys, rainbow jerseys for this special round, and the jerseys were issued and whatever. The problem was they didn't actually tell the players, and 7 of the players, now known as the Manly 7, were good Christian folk from the Pacific Islands, and said, we're not wearing them, we'd rather not play. The whole thing backfired, but for me, you know, the most telling thing about that case is when somebody asked, well, who came up with the idea of this in the first place? It was the company that makes the team's jerseys. They just saw a marketing opportunity in making a whole new strip for this special Pride round, and indeed they did, and they sold loads of copies. I mean, this is just cynical, isn't it? When the naked profit motive becomes so obvious.
Well, I think you're right. It is cynical, and there are lots and lots of people making money out of this, but it goes even more deeply, I think, than the obvious examples. I mean, Ben & Jerry's ice cream is well known for its politicising, how it's quite possible to politicise cream and sugar to quite the extent that they do. I mean, truly beggars belief. But I think that's really just the tip of the iceberg. If you look at every major corporation, and even not so major corporation now, they employ layers and layers of diversity officers. I mean, universities do this to the nth degree. They're practically more equality, diversity, inclusivity officers than there are academics actually teaching students.